A lot of the emails I've gotten through my research have been from American Muslims who want to know more about the Moriscos and some of the ways that they sort of maintain themselves as a community of Muslims in very dire circumstances. One of the questions that I get whenever I talk about this material and whenever I write about this material is, who were the Moriscos? A lot of people have a sense that the Muslims were expelled from the Iberian Peninsula in 1492, and certainly a lot of historiography has theories of sort of Spanish national history have contributed to this misconception. The Muslims were basically not left alone by any means, but allowed to remain Muslims until 1502 in Castile and 1526 in Aragon. So from 1526, looking at the case of Aragon, from 1526 to 1609, these people continued to dwell in the Iberian Peninsula as they had for 8 centuries, as in large part secret Muslims. The conversions to Christianity were largely nominal, and even though the threat of the Inquisition was always there, they were able to remain Muslims to a large extent, especially in rural areas. One of the ways that they did this was to produce books. And these books were in a system called al-Khamiyalo, which comes from the Arabic Ajamiya, which means not Arabic. So to some extent, these people are defined even by Muslims outside of the Iberian Peninsula as other. They are kind of the other. For Christian Aragonese and Castilians and then the Portuguese, they are an other because they're different. They talk funny. They're sort of suspicious as Christians. For Muslims around the Mediterranean, well, they don't speak Arabic. They've largely lost their Arabic. They're this kind of other. They've lost contact with the Sunnah. They're just weird. People seem to be very, very interested in the Moriscos. Anthropologically, and linguistically, they're extraordinarily interesting. The way that they use literature, the way that they use narrative in very direct ways to shape their lives and their communities, I think we have a lot to learn from them. And so that's my passion for the material. When I talk about this material, people seem almost instantly to be interested. Students, especially students, have just jumped onto this. Al-Hadith, well, I should say that Al-Hadith, this is the second sort of version of what began as a website. I don't know that we can call it a website anymore, since we're using a content management system called Drupal that allows us to add modules and do lots of things that I think go beyond what, especially in academic settings, we conceive as websites. I think if we build this kind of locus for dialogue, for continued research, that we can sort of generate a bigger community of scholars, and we can get deeper into these issues than we've been able to get up till now. The research unit has been indispensable. They're funding the project right now. I mean, they are my benefactors in a very direct way at this point. So they allowed me to hire the team. I have now a co-principal investigator here at Stanford, Cici Malik, who is a PhD student in Iberian and Latin American cultures. And then I've hired 2 students, a graduate student, Nick Allen, and an undergraduate student, Alex Romanzuk, who happens to be a Drupal developer.
That's great. So you have students working on this too.
Yeah. The thing that really made me want to do this in a very serious way, and I also want manuscripts available. I want people to be able to access images of the manuscripts. It had to do with students I met in Morocco who want to work on this material. And their education and particularly linguistic skill set allows them to do a lot of interesting work on this material. The problem is they cannot go to Spain to work on this material. They cannot get visas to enter the country because they're Moroccan. So they're essentially stuck. If they can't go to the archives to work on these manuscripts, then what can they do? And here are people who probably have a lot to say about this material. So it struck me that one of the things that we can certainly do is bring, as it were, the manuscripts to them. The phenomenon of being Muslim in a non-Muslim country, being a Muslim in the West specifically, is an issue that is not going to cease to be significant in our lifetime. And so working on this material and developing ways to develop new ways of looking at this material, I think is crucial not only for understanding the Moriscos and the way that they sort of constructed their world, but also how we construct ours.